they won't be able to accept you in your darkness. Because when you don't forgive yourself, it makes you physically sick. Like, what if I could have saved my mom's life? If you are learning how to forgive yourself, or you want to learn how to forgive yourself, you need to watch this video right now. Tap in. Well, today is a little different. It's very vibey and moody outside, so we had to do some lighting effects. It's just lamps. It's not nothing special. Oh my goodness. Welcome back to another episode of Sacred Sundays with me, Lex Luniverse. And today we are talking about something that is very, very close to my heart because I've had to do it for myself. And that is the art of forgiving yourself. Now, we definitely know that forgiving others is beneficial to you. I mean, we've heard it time and time again. Forgive other people for yourself. Because, you don't want to hold on to grudges and hold on to things. And that act of forgiveness, it releases you. But what about the times when we don't really forgive ourselves? What about those times when we're really holding a grudge against ourselves for a choice that we made that we really feel like we can't live with? And that can be very unbearable for a lot of people. Even me. Because there have been so many decisions that I've made in my life that I have had some regrets for. And I've had to really analyze, especially when you're on a healing journey and you're dedicated to recognizing that there's things that are wrong within you, and knowing that you want to heal those wounds. You know what I mean? And not to say like there's something wrong with you or something wrong within you, but if you get a cut and it's wide open, then you're gonna bleed out. And so it's the same way when we get our feelings hurt, when we have traumatic experiences, they leave us open and we bleed out. But we don't bleed out, literally. We bleed out emotionally. And emotionally, we can just be so angry and upset, and we tend to take those things out on the wrong people. People that didn't inflict the hurt or cause the trauma, but yet they get the backlash for the way that we feel. And a lot of people, they won't be able to accept you in your darkness. Unfortunately, a lot of people, they just want to be around you when you're all light and happy and wonderful and loving and positive and bubbly, you know what I mean? But when you really going through some real shit, they ain't gonna be there. They're gonna run. They will flee from you. As fast as the wind, they will get out of there. Because a lot of times, people have so many problems of their own, they don't want to deal with their problems. That's just the reality. It takes a special person to go through hell with you. And some of us have been to hell and back. And so in that process, it changes you as a person. And I've been through many things that have shifted who I am as a person and really rocked me to my core. And losing my husband was one of those things. And that caused a lot of grief in my life. And a lot of sorrow. And I had to be a parent through all of that grief and sorrow. And because of that, I wasn't always my best. And I've had to ask my children to forgive me, but I've also had to forgive myself for just the mistakes that I made in parenting along the way. Just grieving and not having all the tools to know what to do in that type of a situation. And it's hard because honestly, the act of having to forgive yourself comes from you blaming yourself for a lot of things. And even though the situation, so many situations, I wouldn't say was my fault, because I didn't cause those situations to happen. I didn't make those situations take place in my life. I was just a part of the results, the residual, what happens after a situation. And still, I think one of the stages of grief is guilt and blame. And you just blame yourself a lot. You know what I mean? You blame yourself for making the choice, or what if you start the what if game. What if I just would have did this differently, or what if that never happened, and he never passed away, and your mind, it starts going over all of these scenarios that are just not true. But in the process, you start to beat yourself up, because some kind of way is your fault, right? But it's not. It's not your fault. But we can fall into self-blame, and we can fall deeply into self-pity. And it's really irrational that we even feel the way that we feel. But it's almost like being in the twilight zone when you're going through such a traumatic situation, and you're reacting, and the reactions are not always controllable. So you have to learn over time. It takes time to learn how to be gentle with yourself, especially if you have or come from parents that were critical of you and criticize a lot of what you do, which again is another hard thing to be as a parent, right? It's like, it's hard to not want to correct your children, but how we choose to correct them, we have to think about that, because it plays a part in how they feel about themselves. And if you feel a certain way about yourself already due to parenting, then you're going to criticize your own self when things go wrong a lot. And that is just not even fair to you as a person. That's why learning how to forgive yourself is so important. Like, you cannot keep carrying these heavy burdens and these heavy things, especially some of these things that don't belong to you, that is not beneficial for you to hold on to. Like, yes, we all are imperfect beings, and we all do things that are incorrect, right? We make mistakes. Like, I don't know a person that's perfect that doesn't make mistakes. So if we all make mistakes, then the main thing is to learn from those mistakes. Now, if you're just out here intentionally doing messed up stuff, then you're not learning anything. So if you're not learning anything, you're not growing. glowing. You're not glowing either. But you're going to keep repeating these toxic cycles that keep you really held down. And a lot of people, they don't realize it when they're in just a really messed up cycle, like how much it's really like pulling from you and draining your life and keeping you down. But when you're intentionally looking at things and you're like, I made a mistake, you can't keep on reliving that same mistake. You know, like, there's two sides of everything, or maybe even more than that, right? There could be infinite sides to anything, especially when it comes down to possibilities. So in that case, there could have been so many different possibilities and scenarios that could have changed the outcome, but it happened for a reason. So all we can do is extract the lesson. But to just carry the burden of making the mistake with you and beating yourself up constantly for that is not beneficial. You gotta forgive yourself, because when you don't forgive yourself, it makes you physically sick. There are physical ramifications to holding on to guilt, to holding on to grief. A lot of people that don't forgive themselves, they end up having severe mental health issues. They even turn to drugs because they're trying to forget. They're trying to forget the trauma. They're blaming themselves. They're stuck in their guilt. They're angry with themselves. They're sad. They're upset, and they're not able to let it go. So then you start turning to other things to try to put a band-aid over your wound, but you're still bleeding out everywhere. Like the band-aid, that's too big. You know what I mean? The band-aid is not gonna fix it. You need wounds care. You need to be able to go in and clean all of those things out. Clean all of that toxicity out. Clean all of those bad feelings out and remove it from your life. But how do you do that? Like, how do you really go about doing that when you really feel so guilty about things that you've done, when you know that you've hurt people, when you know that you've made mistakes that cost a lot of money, that, you know, where you could have helped somebody and you did it and then something happened to them, or, you know, where we lose people. You know what I mean? Like, even with my mom, and when my mom got sick, she had cancer. And I tried to take care of my mom as best as I could in that time. And after she passed away, I remember just wanting to read and study every book and, you know, herbal book and natural healing, all of these things that I could find to learn it. But then I remember as I was learning those things, then I started to feel guilty, because I was like, wow, like, what if I could have saved my mom's life? What if I could have helped her more when she was alive? I should have did this more. I should have did that more. Like, that's the type of guilt we carry. But the outcome, even if that wasn't what God's will was for her life or for my life, that's something I had to grow through. That's something that I have to live with. So how did I reach the point of not feeling guilty about that? First of all, it takes time. It's not like you're just gonna forgive yourself overnight. And I mean, you can say that. You could say, you know, I forgive myself. That's an easy thing to say. That's a great thing to start with, is just verbalizing that you do, because sometimes even saying those words are very hard to do. But to really feel those effects of that, it takes a while. It takes a while. And so time is one thing. You know, when you acknowledge and you face what happened, and you make the realization of what emotions are being evoked in that moment. Like, okay, for me it was guilt and lack of knowledge, right? Feeling like I should have taken my time to learn more, to find out more, to dig deeper. So I was sad. You know, those are some of the emotions that I felt as a result of having to make the realization. So I could see, what am I forgiving myself for, you know, and from? What am I trying to release and let go of with this act of self-care? Because that's really a part of self-care. I mean, we talk about a lot of the baths and the face and skincare and those things, but like, what about forgiving yourself as self-care? What about that? That's very important that you do that, you know? So after you have really accepted the responsibility and said, okay, it happened. It happened. You know, I gave it my best, or I didn't. I didn't do my best in that situation. I could have done better. Then you have to understand that you're just human. You know what I mean? Like, we're imperfect. And that mistake was just that, a mistake. So, moving forward, I took that information that I learned and I tried to apply it to me and my family. So yes, I couldn't save my mom's life. I couldn't help her in that instant, but I can take that information and I can try to help my family to understand that, you know, we might need to be healthier. We might need to look into some deeper things. We might want to heal, you know, because a lot of time, like even especially during that period of time when my mother was sick, like people talked about cancer and they talked about resentment and holding on to things and how holding on to things makes you ill. And I thought about a lot, like being reflective in these moments is what can really allow you to see the bigger picture. Because when you're holding on to shame and guilt and feelings of unworthiness, like you're kind of stuck in that place, but you're not seeing the big picture. You're just stuck in the smaller room. You got to see the whole house. And so when I was able to sit back and really think about my mom's life and what she went through and what she endured and the things and conversations that we had and we spoke about, she was holding on to things that she hadn't let go of, and that allowed that hurt and that pain to turn into something physical. And that's why we need to also learn how to forgive ourselves, because we don't want physical ailments to start to eat away at our body, at our lives, because we're in pain. Even through my own depression, I would just sit here sometimes and, you know, I would get up and I would do things and I would go places, but like cleaning up and trying to have some type of organization was just really foreign, because it was just so hard to like, I don't even think I was consciously doing it though. It was just really like I was on autopilot, just going through life trying to just get things done, but internally battling things, internally dealing with stuff and going back and forth within myself. But outwardly, you were able to see it if you noticed, if you paid attention. But sometimes we don't even be paying attention to each other. And if we do, the first thing a person will do is they'll talk about you before they help you. which is sad because sometimes your friends, your family members, they are really hurting and they need that push in a direction. They need somebody to recognize and see it. Because if we can start seeing these things and saying, hey, and having these interpersonal conversations with each other, sometimes you need to ask people like, hey, you doing okay? And if they're not, and they start talking about a situation that caused them trauma or deep grief and sadness, you might want to ask them, have you forgiven yourself? And walk them through the steps of doing that. And there's so many ways that you can, release those feelings, right? You have to find meaning in your mistakes, number one. There's always, like I said, a lesson. So there's a reason that things happen. Figure that out. Like, take the time to journal and write out your emotions and your feelings and figure out, like, what was the meaning of that mistake? Why did I do that? Because I think if we don't analyze our own behaviors and we don't ask ourselves why we do things, then we won't be able to correct it. We won't be able to do better the next time because we don't even care as to why are we operating like this? Why am I doing this? Why am I not functioning at my highest? Why am I not taking care of the things that I need to take care of? Why did I talk to him that way? Why did I say that to her? Why? Find out why. Why is a great question. And then once you do that, you can also think about some rituals and some practices that can also help you, like meditation. Meditation has helped me so much in my life. I'm telling you, like being quiet, deep breathing exercises, fire breaths, even screaming. It's ironic that Pacific Palisades is on fire, and I had some emotion even towards that because when I lost my husband, that's one of the places that I traveled to was to LA, and I went hiking in Pacific Palisades, and I was going to go to the top of the mountain, and when I tell you, baby, it was far. It was far. And I got high enough, and I let out the biggest scream, and I cried, and I just left what I was feeling. I was so frustrated. I was so torn. I was so, and I'm tearing up now because, baby, the things that I have grown through, the things that I have made it through, thank you, God. Thank you, God. But I just remember just screaming, and it was such a beautiful place. So it's sad also to know that it's burning, but fire is purifying. And so I hope that through this purification process that spiritually we all get what we need from it. But I was just reminded of that while we were talking about this. That was part of my release work and forgiving myself. Sometimes you just have to scream and cry it out, but release it. You know what I mean? Like, let it go. Writing letters, because even with my husband passing away, I couldn't talk to him personally anymore. So I do a lot of writing, and I do a lot of burn rituals where I write my emotions down. I've written letters to people, my feelings, my thoughts. I've asked people for forgiveness in letters that I can't talk to because time has passed and we're just not there anymore. I can't call you, you can't call me. But what I can do is release the energy. And writing is a powerful form. It's power in pencil and paper. And so being able to write out my emotions, write out my feelings, ask for that forgiveness from them, forgive myself, and then burn it and watch it burn is a great release as well, because it allows you to visualize and see it going away. And sometimes that's very helpful for people to actively see that being burnt away. Again, fire is purifying, so it is something about that purifies, and your intention that you set to release and forgive yourself, it purifies that forgiveness, and it can help to validate that in your mind more. You can do water releases as well. You can, put things in the water. Definitely, I wouldn't pollute the water. So nothing like bottles and plastic or anything like that. But maybe like flowers, sticks, marigolds, or calendula. You can take the dried flowers as well. Those are good to use for like memorandums and memorial type energy. So you can use the water to release, and maybe even write on, like I said, I would try to write on dried leaves, because paper, paper is compostable as well. Just try not to leave like a lot of paper and stuff, because I don't like littering and things like that into the water. I feel like we have enough water pollution and stuff around, so we want to be conscious of what we're doing with the water. But water is very cleansing, and you can use water and baths to intentionally use as a release, and it can help your mood and everything while you're growing through these different changes. So in the practice of forgiving yourself, self-care is going to be very important. And so spiritual baths, that is a great way to relax and ritualistically infuse your bath with herbs and salt. And that's a great way to naturally cleanse the energy and naturally cleanse your own aura, and in hopes of starting the process of you doing the inner work to recognize what you need to forgive yourself from and cleanse from in regards to that as well. You also want to create new patterns around how you speak with yourself. We talked about that in that 2025 glow up video. So how you talk to yourself and how you relate to yourself during this process is going to be important. Like I said, you always want to be gentle with yourself. I think that's the most important thing. Traumatic situations, they do change you. So to want to go back to your old self, pretend that nothing happened, or wash over and be like, well, I need to get back to me. Well, you has been adjusted, and you have been adjusted for a reason. So after whatever happened, after the mistake, sometimes some mistakes you will not be able to be the same. Some mistakes you just can't recover from in the ways that you think you're going to bounce back to your old self. The mistake happened so that you can transform yourself and transform your life into a new person, into a better person. So when you extract that lesson, you're supposed to change. So you got to be gentle with yourself to be able to accept this new version of yourself, with the flaws, with the accidents, with the mistakes, with the things that are messed up. You have to be able to accept that, and in the way you accept that is by talking and being kind to yourself. No more beating yourself up. When you write, start writing about the forgiveness and why you forgive yourself. I don't care how many times it takes you to just have those journals and write letters to yourself. And talk to the self that you want to be. If you're in a place where you just been fucking up, then you need to go back and really just analyze that through your writing. And in that, you can start saying things to yourself like, yes, I messed up. Yes, I made a mistake, but I am not my mistakes. I am not the issue that happened. I do not have to live in that. I affirm that, I took that lesson and now I can go and be a better person. Yes, I treated my children unfairly in that scenario, but because I learned that that is not the way that I should behave as a parent, then I'm going to read books on how to be a better parent. I'm going to find resources. I'm going to do some activities with my children that's going to bring us closer together. Like, find solutions through your writing. Find solutions in your words to yourself, your affirmations to yourself. You want to make sure that, again, you're being kind and compassionate. Like, what you need in that moment, only you know that. So you have to be there for yourself in order to really get over the things that are going on. You have to learn how to be your own advocate. You have to learn how to be your own cheerleader. So that's what you're going to be doing in this process as well. Mirror work can also help with self-forgiveness. We did a workshop. I did a workshop with Brandy. She has an art space, a beautiful place. And we held a workshop together. And during this workshop, we did a mirror work experience. And so what that is you can look in the mirror, and a lot of people really do have trouble looking at themselves in the mirror. So it's, you are facing yourself. And sometimes, like, when people are just new to mirror work, I just ask you to stare into the mirror and ask you, what do you see? Woo, bless me. So you look into the mirror and you analyze, what do you see within yourself? And you'll be surprised what emotions actually come up and how people actually see themselves. And then what you'll start doing is you'll start speaking to yourself differently, directly to yourself. You're going to look in the mirror, you're going to talk to yourself, and you're going to say, self, I love you, I care about you. I'm sorry that you experienced these things. I know that you made this mistake and you did something that has been on your back, and you've been carrying the shame and the guilt for that for years now. It's been tearing you apart. I forgive you. Things work like that, simple as that. It really does assist in your healing. And it might seem silly at first when you get in the mirror, but that necessity to shy away from that experience is you also shying away from facing yourself, shying away from dealing with what's going on within you. So sometimes you need to look yourself in your own eyes and see deeply within yourself to say, you know what, like, I'm really in pain. And so the mirror, the physical mirror, can be a powerful tool in manifesting. It can be a powerful tool in revelations for yourself, and it can be a powerful tool in healing as well. So mirror work is something that's really good to consider in forgiving yourself. And also, you can do daily affirmations to reinforce whatever work that you do. So if you meditate, if you're taking your spiritual baths, if you're relaxing, if you're journaling, write down some affirmations for yourself every day and really affirm the work that you're doing. I'm glad that I've been able to recognize within myself that I've made mistakes. I'm happy that I've been able to extract the lesson from what I did. I'm hopeful, that I won't make the same mistakes again in the future. And that too, like, just affirm it. Affirm yourself, because you don't want to dwell too much on if you're going to do it again. Like, yeah, we don't want to make the same mistake twice, 2, 3, 4 times. You know what I mean? If you're making the mistakes like over and over, the same mistake over and over, then you might want to actually bring in some additional help to see why, like what the pattern is that makes you continue to do that in particular thing over and over again, because it might be something a little bit deeper than you're able to handle on your own, and that's fine. But typically, we're not going to make the same mistake twice. Now, I'm going to tell you what a lot of women, or a lot of people, period, do. And they make mistakes in relationships. You already know how this man is or this woman is. You already know what to expect from this person. You try to give it chance after chance after chance, and they continue to let you down and do the same things to you that they did before. Now, we got to get over those type of mistakes too. We got to learn how to let people go. I'm going to say we, because I'm in this with y'all. We got to learn how to let people go. If they do you wrong and they do you dirty, it's okay to just walk away and not look back. Like, we got to stop feeling obligated. And then if somebody gives you a second chance after you cheat on them, after you lie to them, after you do something that's really, really wrong to them, then you need to really think about what you're going to do with this second opportunity. Even like jobs and things like that. Okay, you make the mistake. What are you going to do with this second opportunity? How have you worked on yourself so that your intentions have changed, so that you can show up as your best self without the intention of trying to bring the same type of dysfunction into this situation again? Sometimes that's why you need to give things space and time for you to elevate personally before you try to go back into that job, go back into that relationship, because sometimes things, they just end for a reason, and we need to let them be. And if they don't, if it's something that God is bringing y'all back together and bringing this situation back into your life for a reason, especially with family, like mending family disagreements and family beefs that's been going on for years, like when you finally get that opportunity to do right, take it and do it. Like, stop taking people for granted. Stop taking opportunities for granted, because you might not ever get the opportunity again. So if we start having that mindset, like, you know what, I'm going to value this experience. Every experience that I have, I'm going to have this experience with the utmost respect, value, and appreciation for it. I promise you, things will be different, and you won't be worried about making the same mistake over and over again. You won't be worried about doubting yourself. You won't carry this undeserving, unworthiness. You won't carry that with you, because you won't feel like you're going to do it again. And that's because you actually took the time to analyze and say, okay, why did I do this? Why did I do that? I don't want to be like this. I don't want to hurt people. I don't want them to feel this way about me. I don't want them to look at me like this. So you took the time to do the work. When you don't do the work, though, you just rush back into situations with the same mentality, and you do the same stupid stuff. I'm sorry if I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings by saying that, but I'm just being real. Like, you do the same shit when you really do not do the work to change. So if you really want to change and you really want to forgive yourself, stop doing certain things, certain behaviors, certain habits. You got to let it go. you gotta release it. And you know, I've given you the tools for you to release it, for you to work on it, you know, and hopefully you will, because these are some of the things that I had to do and still do with myself, to say, hey man, look, this not going how I anticipated. This is not going how I wanted it to go, and it's not going the way that I wanted it to go because of me. And if it's not flowing in the way that it should because of something that I'm doing, then I have to be accountable for that. And I have to fix myself in order to really understand and change what it is that needs to be changed. So, you know, I hope that y'all can reflect on that. I hope that it's helpful to you. And I hope that you also have enough compassion and resilience to love on yourself to a place of wholeness. Love on yourself to a place of accountability, because self-forgiveness is about being accountable. And that's how we make those real changes that stick, is when we can really just address our own bullshit. Like, just being real. I mean, if you can't look in the mirror and talk to you and address you, then nobody else can. And a lot of people do have problems with somebody else giving you constructive criticism, because you take it as hate. You take it as something that's a bad thing, instead of taking it as an opportunity for self-improvement. So 2025, we're trying to rise up and be better, and we want to heal those past things. We want our heart to be light as a feather. We don't want to carry all of these burdens and all of this BS on our back and start bleeding out on people that didn't even hurt us, and just act in a way, because I hear a lot of people say, well, that's just the way that I am. That's just how I am. Well, how you are is not effective in bringing people together. How you are is not making things better for your family. It's not making things better for the people that you interact with. So we want to have great relationships, and if we want to do that, the first relationship we have to have that's great is the one with ourselves. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Sacred Sunday. Leave your comments below. Make sure to share this with your people, you know, and I'll see you next week.